George Herbert Walker Bush was born on June 12, 1924, to Senator Prescott Bush and Dorothy Walker Bush. He showed great potential for leadership from his childhood and on. From 1936 to 1942, Bush attended Phillips Academy, an all-boys exclusive prep school in Andover, Massachusetts. Bush was elected president of his senior class and the Greek fraternities. He also captained the school soccer and baseball teams, and he was a member of the school basketball team. Following the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Bush served as a fighter pilot during World War II. He received the Distinguished Flying Cross, as well as 3 air medals for his service. He returned home and in January 1945 married Barbara Pierce, whom he had met at Phillips Academy. Later that year, he went on to attend Yale University. At Yale, he was captain of the baseball team and a member of the cheerleader squad. Bush had a long and difficult road to his presidency. After a few years spent developing a business career in the oil industry, Bush ran for a Senate seat in 1964. He won the primary but lost the general election to the Democratic incumbent. In 1966, Bush pursued a seat in the House of Representatives. This time, he won. He served 2 terms in the House of Representatives before again running for the Senate. He lost again. Bush was then appointed U.S. Representative to the United Nations by President Nixon. In 1975, Bush was appointed Director of the CIA by President Ford. Additionally, Bush served as Vice President under President Reagan.
I come before you and assume the presidency at a moment rich with promise. We live in a peaceful, prosperous time, but we can make it better. For a new breeze is blowing, and a world refreshed by freedom seems reborn. For in man's heart, if not in fact, the day of the dictator is over.
As president, Bush pursued a very active role in foreign policy. He was facing a new world of international affairs. After improving general US-Soviet relations with Gorbachev with acts like the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, Bush would see the Soviet leader, his country, and the Berlin Wall all fall during his single term. Bush also authorized the defeat and extradition of General Noriega, who was the leader of the Panama, and a drug lord who threatened the security of its canal. Bush's crowning moment came in Kuwait. After Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein invaded the country and threatened Saudi Arabia, Bush rallied the UN and 30 other countries to try to fight back. An assembled army consisting of mainly Americans would end up defeating the million-man Iraqi army. But things at home looked slightly different. On the campaign trail, Bush made the fatal promise. "Read my lips. No more taxes," he said.
Raise taxes and I'll say no, and they'll push and I'll say no, and they'll push again and I'll say to them, read my lips.
Unfortunately, a failing economy and rising budget deficit would force him to go back on this promise. And yet, the economy still seemed to show no signs of improvement. At the same time, Bush tried and failed to combat growing violence in the inner cities. These factors would lead to his approval rating eventually dropping from 90% to 49% by 1992. By the time the 1992 elections had come around, Bush was defeated by newcomer Bill Clinton. This is because Americans were unsatisfied with his domestic reform. Looking back at his presidency, Bush's long-term contributions to America have still yet to be determined. He did pass the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Clean Air Act. The Americans with Disabilities Act was intended to prevent discrimination towards people with disabilities. The Clean Air Act was designed to curb 4 major threats to the environment and to the health of millions of Americans: acid rain, urban air pollution, toxic air emissions, and stratospheric ozone depletion. The Clean Air Act was the first major environmental law in the United States, and this set up a precedent for the government's involvement in the environment. Both of these were geared to help provide America some help in the future. We can also credit another president to George H.W. Bush. Bush's son became president later on during the 21st century. Hopefully, as time passes, we will learn more of Bush's legacy. Until then, this has been all that we know of his contributions to America so far. Thank you for watching. Bye.